Hello and welcome to the first episode in the Survival Skills Africa series. In this video, I'm going to build a field compass so that I can navigate and find water that way. There are a couple of episodes in this series, so be sure to check out all of the other episodes where I cover river crossings, building survival shelters, making bow drill fires, and all the rest. There's also a consolidated video, Survival Skills Africa, that you can check out to get the full comprehensive package of survival skills. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. Before you set up a shelter, you preferably want to have a look around and see if you can find water. What most people don't know is that you can actually use your compass to navigate to water, and I'll show you that in a second. If you're unsure what your survival priorities should be, then ask yourself, what's going to kill me first in this environment? Around here, what's going to kill me first is probably the sun or a leopard. Unfortunately, I've got no way of ensuring that the leopards don't attack me, but I can just watch my six. Now I found a nice shady spot over here, and I think we'll sit down here and make a little field compass. The reason why I say we can actually navigate to water using our compass is because if we have a relative idea of where we are, let's say southern hemisphere, we know the sun passes east to west, but because I'm in South Africa, the sun is going to pass due north of me, which means that it casts a shadow on the southern side of rocky outcrops and of mountains. I'm more likely to find water where there is more shade because the sun's going to be less likely to evaporate that water. So that moisture will accumulate even just on the side of the mountain. It might go underground, but it's going to push downwards. And if I then find that the slope of the mountain forms a valley, I'm more likely to find water in that area than I am on the northern slope of a mountain while I'm in the southern hemisphere. Obviously, the reverse applies if you're in the northern hemisphere. So if you don't have a compass and for whatever reason you can't tell where north is, maybe it's overcast and you can't tell where the sun is, you can make a quick field compass by magnetizing a needle. In my case, I'm going to pour a little bit of water into my canteen cup. Are you thirsty? You can drink that so long. Yeah, staying hydrated is important, hey doggy. Using a needle for my gear repair kit, you can use a bobby pin, like a hairpin or a safety pin or anything like that. I'm going to magnetize this needle really quickly just using my knife. So this is a 1095 Crowvan steel knife. It will magnetize the needle. I need to just scrape on the one side of the needle, so just the one half of this needle. I'm busy polarizing using my knife, and just about 40 times should do the trick. Okay. Once I've done that, I can take a small leaf. In this case, I've just cut a little piece of grass. I'm going to lay my needle on my leaf, and then whatever water Indy hasn't drank, drop that there. Sort of want it to float nicely. And if it is magnetized, you'll see it immediately starts to turn and reorientate itself. Okay, so you can see quite clearly the thick part that I magnetized has reoriented itself. It's now pointing in that direction. That is going to give us north. If you're unsure, disturb it. Put my needle on my grass. See, immediately it starts orientating itself again. It overshoots and returns. So that is definitely going to give us north. If you're still not convinced, I do have a lensatic compass, and we can see whether the field compass and the lensatic compass show us the same direction as north. North on the lensatic compass and north on the field compass. So my field compass is saying that direction over there is north, which means south is that way. That means that I'm sitting pretty much on the southwestern side of the big mountain behind me. And there's a high chance that if I go over this ridge here, I'll find water or at least really damp soil on the other side. Now that would make a good spot for me to dig down and to try and find water below the soil if whatever body of water was there before has dried up. In that way, I'm going to minimize the amount of energy that I expend trying to find water. And I'm going to increase my chances of finding water using my little field compass here. Right, let's go see if we can find water. So building a field compass is not the only way that you can determine where north is in the wilderness. There are a couple of other ways. You can use an analog watch. I go through a lot of other means to figure out which side is north in a dedicated video on field compass navigation. You can go and check that out. I'll link it here. Right, we're just about to go over this ridge. Let's see whether we can find some water on the other side. Lo and behold, water. Not too bad, hey? A whole river. I need to consider when I approach a body of water that I'm not the only one who wants that water. The animals are also going to be flocking towards that water because they also need to drink. And not only are there apex predators on land, but there are also predators inside the water. On top of that, I need to be wary of disease in and around the water. The other thing I need to look out for in the wilderness is other people. Not every person I come across in the wilderness is going to have good intentions. So if I'm approaching a body of water, I'm exposing myself in the open to whoever and whatever is also in the area. So my advice is sit tight for a few minutes, just watch the area, watch the water, make sure you're the only one approaching that body of water, and see if there are safe places where you can approach the water. The bend of a river is usually a concealed place where you can access the water without being spotted. Just remember, just because the water is running or it looks clear doesn't mean it's good to drink. As you go along, see if you can find signs that people or other animals have been in the environment, because they'll be coming to drink, and most likely at night as well. Right, let's go. When we're in the wilderness, we can easily let our minds race away with potential threats and possibilities of disaster. But don't let your thoughts get the better of you. In the Bible, in 2 Corinthians 10 verse 4, the Bible tells us that our warfare and our strife is not against the physical, not what we see around us, but against the spiritual. It encourages us to bring every thought into captivity. So when you're in the wilderness, bring your thoughts into submission before Christ and allow His peace to come over you. You'll never be alone. It doesn't matter how lonesome it feels. God will never leave you nor forsake you, so take on each obstacle as you get to it. Now I'm approaching the water here fast, and on the other side of the river I've seen that it looks like there might be a small forest there. It would be ideal to try and cross the river to get to the small forest, as that will provide me with firewood and also possibly a safe place to build a shelter. Just along the watercourse here, I found a skeleton of some or the other animal. I haven't quite determined what it is yet, but this tells me a couple of things. First of all, there's an animal that died here. It might have been from natural causes, it might have been from drinking the water, or there might have been a predator in the environment that hunted this animal. If I can find any teeth marks or places where the bones have been broken, such as right over there, that might tell me that the bones have been gnawed on and that this was an animal attack. I may suspect that it might have been a predator that attacked this animal, and that will give me early warning that there are predators in the environment. Hey, yeah, it's a game trail. There are a couple of other ways that you can locate water in the wilderness. One of those is to keep an eye out for game trails. So pretty much what Indy came in on now is quite a thick game trail, and then there's a smaller, narrower trail branching off to the left here, or my left, and then there's another small trail branching off to the right. There are a couple in the area, but this one seems to be really thick or really wide, which tells me that a lot of the game travel on this path, and then they sort of split up and diverge in separate directions when they go on the smaller paths. Which is interesting, because we have to then ask ourselves, why are all the game going on this path here? So usually game trails converge because the animals trek towards water. So all of the animals go in this direction. So I'm suspecting that there's another body of water coming up on this side, and then when they come back from the water, they split up and go in their separate directions again. So it's one way to try and tell whether you are approaching water in the wilderness, is to keep an eye out for converging game trails. If you do find that there used to be a body of water, but the water has gone underground, it's dried up, maybe it's a dry riverbed, you can try and dig for water in that riverbed or nearby that riverbed. It's always safer to try and dig a seep well, or what's also called a coyote well, nearby a water source, because that soil between the water source and where you're digging the well is going to drain and filter the water that you're going to drink. Even though it is filtered, it's still safest to boil that water, but it's better to drink from a coyote well or a seep well than it is to drink directly from a water source like a river. Even if the water is clear, that river may be contaminated by a dead animal upstream. Maybe there's a village somewhere up in the mountains and the village is contaminating the water. So you never know what's going to actually be in that water. Best is always to boil it or put it through a water filtration system that removes both bacteria and viruses. Another thing that you can have a look out for in the wilderness if you're searching for water is bees or flies. These two insects are usually found within a 5-kilometer radius of water. Animals like honey badgers can often lead you to beehives as well, and the bees will lead you to water. If you watch them for a while, you will see the direction that they come and go, and you may be able to determine in which direction they're flying to reach the water. If you haven't stumbled upon water by now, there are a couple of other ways in which you can collect it. The first of these is through transpiration. So we use a clear plastic bag, we put it around a branch of a tree, preferably not a poisonous tree because the branch is going to be in the water that you're collecting, but inherently the water that you get from evaporation should be good to drink. So once again, we use the same principle that we used to navigate to water in the first place. We want to again establish where north is. Because I'm in the southern hemisphere, the sun is going to pass due north of me, which means that the northern parts of plants or bushes or trees are going to get more sun than the southern parts. It's going to be a bit of a waste of time if I set my transpiration bag up on the other side of this bush. So in order to establish where north is, we can use a different method. We don't have to make a field compass. You can take an analog watch, and now you must really hope that the time on your watch is set correctly. The ideal is to use just a little stick. So I'm in the southern hemisphere. I'm going to point the 12 o'clock of my watch towards the sun. In the northern hemisphere, you would point the hour hand of your watch towards the sun. I'm going to put just a little stick or a twig on the 12 o'clock and then align it, and the shadow of my stick falls over the 12 o'clock and over the 6 o'clock. Now I know I'm pointing directly at the sun. And I'm going to draw a line between the hour hand and the 12 o'clock on my watch. So at the moment it's just about 1 o'clock, which means that my line is going to go between 12 and 1 and between 6 and 7. So that's going to give me a line that points north. Now north is going to be between my hour hand and the 12 o'clock. Now that's going to give me north. So that means that north is now directly ahead of me and south is right behind me. So I'm on the northern side of this bush over here. So I can set my transpiration bag up on this bush or on one of these branches, and that's going to give me the best chance of collecting water. I've got a bag that has a little string in it, and you can use any clear plastic bag. I could even use the one that I used to cross the river or to build a makeshift shelter. In this case, this one is just convenient. I actually keep my bow drill kit in here. The reason why I say it's convenient is because of the drawstring. The other thing I need is a small stone. I'm just rubbing off the worst of the dirt from it, and then I'm going to drop my stone inside my bag. Okay, I'm going to select a nice big branch. Bring it all together. Okay, so I'm obviously needing a bigger stone because the wind isn't helping. Ideally you want a branch that's drooping downwards. With my bag way down, all that's left now is to wait for the sun to heat up the bag, and you can already see there's some condensation being caught up on the inside. It's actually happening really fast, so we should be able to get some water from here within the next 3 or 4 hours. How much water that's going to be is anybody's guess. Whether it's actually a viable amount of water, that's going to depend on how many plastic bags you've got. Now, solar stills are another way that you can collect water. That's basically through evaporation. So I've waited about 2 hours and I've come back to my transpiration bag, and you can see there is quite a bit of condensation on the inside of the bag, but it hasn't yielded a whole lot of water, only just enough to wet the rocks at the bottom here. There's a couple of drops. If you've got nothing else, that's going to be like gold to you. But ideally you'd want to set this up in the morning and let it stay the whole day. So in that instance, you would get sunlight from the morning right through to the afternoon. Ideally, you also want a plant or a tree that has really broad leaves on it, because the smaller the leaves are, the less moisture they're going to hold and the less they're going to transpire, which means less water for you. Well folks, that's it from me on navigating to water. Keep an eye out for the rest of the videos in this series, Survival Skills in Africa. Also have a look out for the complete compilation video that puts all of these skills together in one video. Until the next time, live ready.